It's like as soon as somebody says, "Could you try and drink less beers this week?" All your brain is going, "I am going to drink a lot of beers. It's not even my fault. But the only thing on my mind right now, when is my next beer?"
You just go, okay, tequila it is if you insist.
I remember saying to a friend of mine once, his significant other was leaving for the evening, and he said, "Make sure you don't get drunk." And she left, and I said, "If you said that to me, you would be calling hospitals to find out where I was."
Exactly. Yeah.
Never. He said, "What do you say?" I say, "Have a nice time." It's weird, isn't it?
Right, they can hear us. So shall I just roll intro?
Roll that intro.
Not going to hear all the intro?
Oh yeah, I forgot to fix that. Welcome, hey, we're live. They can see us and everything. Yay! Welcome to the new Ohm Show, episode number 4. It's a Battery Mooch special. We're joined by Battery Mooch, special guest. It's a Battery Mooch deep dive. That's what we're calling it.
Oh, forgot to do my stretches and everything. Oh.
Yeah, we'll do a little bit of hellos at the beginning, but then we're going to get straight into questions from the Facebook group that we have been asking all week. And any questions you have in chat, we'll try and do live chat questions as well. Yep, and yeah, we're gonna talk batteries. Super important subject: safety, batteries, and all the new experiments you've been doing as well, Mooch. Really interesting. So
the legal ones. That's all.
No, not the sexual ones. It's a whole different show.
Yeah, that is a different show. So let's
small farm animals. I found out their issues with. Okay, never mind. I said I wouldn't talk about it.
Brad, what are you drinking and what are you vaping?
I am about to open a Cyberdog because it's Christmas after all, and apparently Cyberdog has something to do with Christmas.
Does it?
Cyberdog? No, Cybernaut.
Cybernaut.
Brewdog.
Cyberdog's a whole different thing.
Brewdog, Cybernaut. I can't read.
You'll get the hang of it.
Nope, I won't.
3 syllables. I mean, it's up there.
Yeah, exactly. Too many syllables for after dark. I am still using my EVL Reaper.
Good man.
And I actually got the 0.7 mesh coil that you recommended, John.
Yeah, are they good?
No.
Oh, no. See, it wasn't a recommendation for me. It was a recommendation. I always recommend the 0.7 Canthal or SS coil. It's better.
But they're nice, but they're surprisingly a lot airier than
big hole inside.
Yeah, the normal 0.7. So
I've got some 0.7s. Nudge me. I'll send you some tomorrow.
Well, I've actually ordered some 1.8s.
Okay.
Which I believe should fit this. So
better have a tiny hole if it's gonna.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get those and see what those do. But I might nick some 0.7s off of you when I see you next week, darling.
Oh yeah, of course. Come down. Yeah, do that.
Yeah. And in there, as always, Cactus Jackie, and you can see I'm
getting low, so yeah, good idea to pop down and see me then, really.
Yeah. I'm going to throw it at Mooch, darling.
Hello, all.
What you drinking and what you vaping, buddy?
I have got, just because it's 4 o'clock, I'm still on the water, but I brought my Gecko cup, so
that's very cool.
Maybe that makes up for the lack of alcohol. And only because I would love a beer, but the rest of the workday would be less than productive.
Yeah.
If I had one of those. And I am vaping.
Yeah, I do that.
I am not going to be vaping because I realized I put both mods aside earlier after pulling out the cotton and saying I'll come in with fresh cotton and everything, and I didn't re-wick. I just realized.
I'm sure you could do that at the same time as talk.
Well, yeah, there's no battery instead of sulfur. Anyway,
you're going to have to multitask.
Iconic on a stainless steel Dreamer with 0.17 dual fuse Claptons. Then I've got the eFusion Duo with an intake dual. And for this, I would just be doing some 70 VG with a touch of mint because it's cheap, and when I'm doing other things, I don't like spending money on vaping. But otherwise, I was planning on really enjoying this with some chocolate donut because I was in the mood for a snack. And
nice.
hit that juice does some nice donuts here in the States.
What are they called? What's the name? Brand name? Sorry.
Hit that juice.
It's Mike's, isn't it? It's Mike's juice.
Mike Vapes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm looking to try his Boston cream because that's my favorite donut.
Yeah, right.
But they were out of stock last time, and there've been very few old ladies to mug in the neighborhood lately. So as soon as one comes by, I'll have the funds.
Good. There'll be loads about it. It's nearly Christmas. You'll be able to go.
There we go. And I'll pass it
never
on
look.
to, let's go diagonally across my screen to Richard.
Hello. Welcome to everyone in chat. Don't forget, if you're in chat, turn the chat thing to live chat at the top.
Did it again.
Especially tonight, because we're going to be very interactive tonight. So it'd be good to see what everyone's talking about. But everyone's in there. Scotty Bogfoot, Andy, Bob, Trev, Dave, Keith, Harry. Everyone's in there. John Malcolm, Chris. Everyone's in there. So get in there and turn it to live chat if you want to see what everyone's saying, not just the best bits.
You want to see the naughty parts.
Yeah. So that's going on. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to smash that like button as well. And buy a cup. That's all the business taken care of. So yeah, right. I am vaping some really random stuff. I'm still on the MPV 5 with the Nunchaku tank on top.
Do you like that 5? Is it?
There's it's incredibly convenient. Huge battery, 5,000 mAh or whatever it is. It's big. It's incredibly convenient and it just works. You know, like very Inikin.
I'm torn. Yeah, that's what I thought with the looks. I'm torn on the looks. There's something about it I really like, and there's something about it. Maybe it's certain colors that I don't like.
That color is bad.
Very Art Deco.
It's really Art Deco. It's like an old radio.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the grills and that one. What would they bake light?
Yeah,
Kind of material look to it.
I would have never bought it, but because it got sent to me, and it's just grown on me more and more really as I've gone along.
Okay, I was considering it, but kind of held off because I want to see it and play with it, and it's just not around here.
And I want to ask you about an element of that mod later on as well. And I've also got the boost. We talked about this on the show a few times actually. The boost. This is very, very, very funky, very, very nice feel.
We were ahead of the curve on that as well.
Yeah, now it's the hype.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. He kind of did us a favour on that.
It's the hype. I've still got the Goon Basim combo as well. Juicers, Pistache from Just Add Nick, and no longer from Just Add Nick, Cream Soda. Jeffrey's Cream Soda.
No longer from them. They don't make it anymore.
Yeah, the last of that. So that's all good. Don't forget, there's a raffle going on. We'll mention it now. And this is one of the prizes. So that's why I'm not vaping that. That's getting cleaned up and put in a box. Ready for whoever wins that on the raffle. Tomorrow. Oh, exciting. So that's a thing. Drinking zombie cake from Brewdog.
Was that any good? I only saw it the other day.
If you like porters, it's brilliant.
Is it more of a kind of... are you a chilled porter, or are you more of a room temperature kind of?
Just below room temp.
Oh, okay.
That's my opinion, and it's a it's a drink if you're not having loads of drinks, just a few chilled out.
I bet it's got some whack to it. What percentage are we talking about?
I don't think it's crazy because it's one of the ones they've added to draft.
17.
Yeah, 5%. It's 5%.
Oh,
it's one of the ones they've added to draft in their pubs, isn't it? So yeah, nice drop. John, what are you drinking? What are you vaping?
I just finished a Hyde and Wild, but I finished that, so it doesn't really count. So I'm on Punk IPA. I've got some of them. Yeah, I have got. I don't know what to call the mod. I've got the Horn. And
cool.
Mr. Mark Toddeth kindly sent me this with a note saying.
That'll get you arrested on the streets here in New York.
He said there was only ever one person I could send this to, the weirdest motherfucker I know. You could get away with it. then yeah, it's pretty funky. So it's an 18650.
You have to pair that with a tank that isn't going to leak on its side, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you can't. There's no resting it anywhere. Well, it does come with its own holster. I'm just not wearing a holster. And it's got
like Indiana Jones.
There we go.
It's an actual horn. Yeah, it's quite cool. There was a fantastic thing that Mark in the world. I had to take out this screw the other day. I was trying to tighten this up. Never do that. It's attached to the contact on the bottom.
Is it a clutch firing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's here. Yeah.
Huh.
It's very, very funky.
Very
I really
good.
like it. So that is that. So that the pipe is sort of retired for the crazy horn mod. So yes, Mark Todd gives me the horn. I have also got the Aegis, whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. Oh, Geek Vape. Yeah, Geek Vape Aegis.
Aegis X.
Aegis X, is that what it's called? It's got that.
Is that the one with the gorgeous screen?
Huge.
Or at least the colourful screen?
Yeah, huge screen.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely massive. I use it as a tester in the shop. It's really handy. With a Karma on top at something stupid. No, it's not that afternoon. It is 0.31. And in that I've got Piscash 2, but it's 20 milligram Solnic. And it works. What's that? 55 watts. Yes, that's aged now, and it does all come together quite well. That, isn't it, Piscash? People keep telling me it's good. It is.
It is
30,
good. It is
30,
good.
30 odd kits left.
Right.
To mooch.
Shall we?
Wow, look at that. We got some Brad nips then. Just live Brad nips.
He's such a tease. I swear to God.
We all do that, by the way. We didn't tell you that much. Just at some point during the show, just show you nipples. We'll all do it. Just
I like getting
I've got my pretty gold chain hanging between them. So.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Let's get into it then. So if anyone in chat wants to ask Battery Mooch a battery question, then just put it in chat. And in the meantime, we'll run through Facebook ones.
I'm going to go through the Facebook ones. If you, by the way, if your question gets skipped, it's because you were trying to be funny. John Norris asks, with the latest batch of... Oh, wait there. We need to build up. That's ridiculous. That was really, really crap. Right. I'm just going to do a very brief build up. This is the battery mooch who
standing behind you.
if you're a fan of Reddit and you've been on Reddit, I think that's where you began, isn't it?
Or was it ECF?
ECF. Reddit was a few months later because I thought everybody was bonkers there. Like, and I don't want to be involved with it at all. I was getting enough grief from the rest of the community when I was starting. I knew
was
Reddit
already he's a professional battery tester. That's what he does for a living. And before we all started this,
he sits in the back of a lab licking 9-volt batteries.
That's basically what you used to do.
That I do. That's what I rub in my nipples.
Was that our old show? Was our? I was trying to think the other day. Was our old show the first show you did live? Did you do Plumes live?
It's either yours or Plumes of Hazard. I think it was Plumes of Hazard was the first. It
could have been. I couldn't remember because I know we both.
But they were close.
Yeah, because you kind of came on week. I don't know.
3.5 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3.5 years ago. Yeah. On the old the Ideal Ohm Show, which used to do, and but anyway, battery mooch himself became everyone's kind of fallback guy to ask battery questions to over the last sort of 3 to 4 years, and
then you massively expanded, didn't you? Really?
Yeah.
You went kind of full time, kind of.
And have your own YouTube channel.
Tried full time and did the YouTube because some people it's just visual and some things worked better. It was really trial and error thing.
There's some great.
It's done really well, the YouTube channel, isn't it?
Thanks.
Oh, it's fantastic, yeah. And you do, and you've got Patreon as well.
Patreon, and then the Facebook. It's interesting because with ECR, ECF, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you find that there are different countries and different types of vapors for each of the platforms. And you can tailor I'll post some things only to Facebook. I'll post some things, only here, type of stuff, and it saves me time, and it's much more focused with the things. I realize where I'm not wasting effort.
I saw, because we've kind of Mooch, you and I have been doing this about the same amount of time, being on screens and things like that. But it was a Canadian reviewer made a video a little while ago. Reviewer, shop owner, who made a video a little while ago. He made a really good point. I can't remember his name. Don't put me on the spot.
Okay.
But it was about social media, and he was just talking about how much time it actually takes, and it was really, and he was just straight down the barrel, just said, this is it pays. I don't mind doing it at all. It pays nothing. It begins at 6 a.m. and finishes at midnight, and there is no money. And you're going to do these things, which I absolutely don't mind doing at all. It's information and trying to kind of people having fun or whatever. It's fine. But it was really great to hear somebody else's objective reasoning.
I remember seeing that you're worried about Instagram because you're worried people would just look at the picture, and not read the context of the picture, which is fair.
Instagram is where I realized that no one was going to read anything, and you really can't. There's no room to write anything, and no one wants to scroll up 50 of those 50 times to read something. It's just a terrible platform to share technical knowledge, or to share knowledge, period. It's fantastic to share photographs, to share images. So that's where I created the ratings graphic, that sort of thing. Picture of the battery and a couple of numbers, lots of warnings, and that's it. You post this thing. Now that's easy to just send back and forth, or save, or do whatever you want to do. And that's actually something that I really like the kind of most, because it takes the entire test report and just puts it on this one graphic that anyone can share worldwide.
Yeah, they've all got their places, and they're It's anyway. That was the introduction to Mooch. Now I have to ask you some questions before I do get completely lost in there. I'm going to go back to Facebook. I know people. Don't worry, we can move up and down chat freely. Yep. We're fine. So the first question is coming from John Norris, which was with the current latest batch. This is battery as well as vaping. With the latest batch of electric cars on the market, how far can we push the current battery technology before we have to start looking for new batteries for our mods? It's kind of a that's a very open question. Do as you wish with it.
Yeah, you can take it 100 different ways, because I'm not really sure which aspect of it he's asking about.
I guess
the basic question is the electric car scene pushing forward battery technology?
Perfect.
They are. It is, but they're pushing forward electric vehicle battery technology. Now, these batteries are, if you took one like the Tesla cells, you put them in a mod, and you'll just be okay. It's a fun 10 amp battery. Okay.
Right.
There's nothing special about them for us. There's nothing special about them except that they are perfectly optimized for use in that vehicle for that application.
Right.
The exact little shape of the discharge curve, the way the heat's distributed in the battery, cost, the materials that are used, the shape of the contact that can make interconnection of batteries or adding protection, etc. All those are optimized for the vehicle, but does nothing for us. So the batteries don't offer us anything. Now, what I think the advances it might be able to offer us is scale. Ramping up, hundreds of millions of these instead of a couple million of those. That can make it easier for them maybe to flood the market. I don't think we're going to see any cost reduction, but we might see more low current rated, 5 to 10 amp batteries, but with ultra high capacity. That's the kind of thing that's going to start coming in now. So for lower power vapors, I think they'll start to reap the benefits of the gray market and excess inventory batteries that end up being supplied to us. Okay. But I think otherwise, probably not much, because they're never going to go for high currents. No one needs 7,000 ultra high, 30 amp batteries.
Isn't there a danger as well that if they did come up with something really clever, they'd patent it anyway? So only their car company could use it?
Most
There's
likely,
the-
yeah. But you'd still probably get, they'd use it, and then maybe they would have some subsidiary, or they'd license the batteries to somebody else, and they would order 250,000 of them, only use 200,000 of them, and 50,000 then appear on the gray market or secondary markets,
Right.
as its inventory. And we might be able to get those, for a month or two. We get, the Tesla Wonder battery or some other battery, and Fisker or something else, and we'd be able to use them. But we're lucky. Power tool batteries, electric vacuum cleaner batteries, are perfect for us. It's kind of high current, medium to high current, less than continuous use, and that's what those cells are designed for. So we get a pretty good selection already available.
So we really need battery technology for Hoovers to get.
Yeah,
accelerated.
or the next technology in safety. But for an electric vehicle, a great deal of the safety, a lot of times they'll say, let's even take the existing protection devices out of the cells, because it's less expensive for us to design it into the pack instead of having
Into the housing
internal
rather
per
than-
cell protection on there. Because most of the cells we use have little tiny devices inside that can help in certain situations, maybe. But Tesla may go, we need this in the pack. We need more control over it. We want our software controlling it as opposed to some mechanical thing that works 99.99% of the time, which is not good enough. So they'll say, take it all out. Let's save that 5 cents for each cell, and we'll just put it into the pack and have complete control over it. So there actually can be downsides to be using some of these cells, because they may not have protection devices that we're expecting.
I have a good quick question for you, Mooch. Gareth Gooch says, Gareth Goff says, do you leave batteries in mods overnight?
No, never.
Sorted.
It's just, I'm not going to be the 1 in a million guy who has a problem. We're dealing with spectacularly low price. People go, oh, my mod costs $50. I mean, yeah, but it costs $1.80 to make.
Yeah.
We just spent $50 on it. So, mass produced, ultra low cost, very little testing because of the speed of development, having to get out new mods all the time. The failure rate on those is going to be higher than for some other products.
I never understand why people don't just, because I just program my own schedule. So before I go to bed, this mod, before I go to bed, I'll just do, let me just do it. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the contact
for me, I'm like, I want to charge them.
Yeah.
So they're coming out anyway.
Yeah. So for me, I just think if you can take that completely away or knock the batteries out or whatever, there's just never.
I just don't want to be the 1 in a million.
Yeah, I agree.
That
and
something happens to
that kind of does lead on to beg the question though of what about this and this?
Oh, with a built-in battery.
And
that
this
burns your house down.
And this.
Internal battery devices. I mean, I don't leave them in bed while I go to sleep. I leave them on a countertop or something. If it decides to go off, it'll spin around the countertop or maybe rocket off on my floor or something like that. And hopefully, it's not going to set a hardwood floor on fire. But don't beg, don't invite an issue. Don't leave it under the covers with you in bed, where the only warning you get is once you are already on fire. You want to be able to have it someplace, if a 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million, that nothing happens. You don't have to do what I've seen a couple people do. They put it in the bathtub or in the sink or something. I don't think you have to go that far, unless you've got a really weirdly acting device and it's just like, I'm getting rid of it tomorrow. I don't know what to do with it right now. I'll put it in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Actually, that could lead us straight on to this question. I'm going to go down and go back up again because it makes sense. Keith Jones says, this might be common knowledge, but not for me. Is there a safe and quick way to discharge a battery, rendering it inert or totally dead?
No, yes.
So is this the scenario that he plans to dispose of it?
Yes, I assume so.
Yeah, no, there's no safe way to do it. You don't have to. Just put tape over it. So put some tape over it and recycle it.
Yeah.
Don't use salt water, please.
Yeah, I saw that.
Don't use salt water.
Go over to Mooch's channel and watch the brilliant, it's a wicked video about the effect of water on batteries and the effect of
I wish I could put the smell of that water once the battery starts dissolving. It's positive contact. Short story is you put it in salt water, it dissolves in positive contact, the battery opens up. Now you've got toxic sludge and smell, and the battery stops discharging when it opens up. So it just sits there because you've got salt running warm because now it's still discharging internally too. And it just, no, just put tape over it. You don't have to worry about it on there. And there's just not much more we can do. If you want, you can buy on AliExpress or eBay or something, a small battery tester unit that discharges anywhere from like 250 milliamps to up to a couple of amps, and just take that sucker all the way down, then tape it up. That'd certainly be an option. Some of them are pretty inexpensive.
Right. Are you going to go from chat, Richard?
There is a few in chat. Scotty Bogfoot, you might have to explain what he's on about with this, but Scotty Bogfoot in chat says, how is the low temperature battery testing going?
Oh, yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I've got the cryogenic chamber. Right now, it's I was going to move on to the next stage, but something else happened that made me not move on to the next stage, which I can't talk about yet, but hopefully we'll all find out before the end of the year what that is. But I wanted to, when I get down to negative 23C with the duct tape prototype. So the final one I wanted to get down, I want to be able to reach 40 so I can.
You have to kind of see this, because if you, again, go over to Mooch's channel, he's built a chamber to see how batteries behave at very low temperatures.
So and I want to regulate it negative 20 or negative 30, which means you need to reach like 40.
What's your hypothesis, Mooch? Or do you not even want to?
It's just to quantify the loss of performance at various temperatures, and to say, look, if you're not going to listen to us about safety in cold weather, like charging or something like that, then look what happens to a cell at 0 Celsius. You only get 40% of the capacity. Now I'll take it down to negative. You go out to your car, you pull the mod out of the glove compartment, and you start vaping. You'll get 3 pulls on it.
Right. There's a classic with snowboarders and GoPros. Snowboarders constantly complain about the performance of GoPros on the slopes, and they think it's because the battery's cold, basically.
We used to have exactly the same thing with snowboarding.
I mean, it's sitting up there. There's no
wind chill, snowy everywhere,
or anything. We can put our mod in an inside pocket in between poles. Out in cold weather.
So apparently, the performance of GoPros is quite poor on the slopes.
We used to use GoPros when we went snowboarding, and then again, like when we went mountain boarding or street luge or any of that. And a GoPro when I was in warm weather would last me the whole weekend. But a GoPro snowboarding, we would have to charge every single day without fail. Just that drop in performance.
And if you charge them cold, then you can plate metallic lithium inside, and suddenly it catches fire eventually, and all kinds of stuff. So it's they like room temperature. Batteries really like room temperature.
They operate in a very specific. There's a question here from Kevin Watts, which I wanted to.
Yeah, that was what I was going to go with, but I was just going to warn. The pre-warning was going to be, it's a very short question or a short thing, and then
it's a very short question. But I'm going to allude to what I.
It doesn't matter. The answer is going to be damn long.
He says, "I'd like to know more about nanotechnology in batteries," and I think what he's implying here is the gold line nanotechnology and graphene.
What was the first one? Gold
gold. I've got it written down here somewhere. Gold nanowire batteries and
I
graphene nano batteries.
Yeah, I haven't heard about gold nanowire or any kind of
Okay.
tech involving gold at all. It's now for nanotechnology. It's used in some batteries now. I'm not familiar with any, certainly round batteries that use carbon. Carbon is used for the negative part of the battery. That's what holds the electrons. It holds the electrons and the ions when the battery's charged. It's all stuffed in between the layers of carbon.
Yeah.
So most of our batteries use graphite. Some use sheets of graphene. There are a couple out there that use graphene totally. It offers a little bit of a performance difference. It's not fundamental change because there's so many other aspects to an operation of a battery that go along with just what materials are used in the negative portion of the battery. In terms of the gold and stuff like that, it sounds like something maybe they do put conductive additives into the positive and negative parts of the battery. They mix all the powders together because you've got all these particles that all the ions can slip into, but all the particles sit together and you've got two round particles. You've got all this essentially airspace. So you want to fill it with that so the ions can follow through all the conductive material. And find
are we
all
talking
a seat for them to sit in?
I think the other thing is that technology relative to vaping. Is it ground? No, that's the answer I was looking for. So it doesn't really make any.
No, it's like for maybe if that gold or something is being used to like reduce the internal resistance of the battery, perhaps that is a cell that eventually ended up in our hands, and it was a really high performance battery in terms of 30, 35 amp rated, then maybe that could say, oh, hey, we'll get an extra 10% run time with this battery because it holds its voltage up better, less internal resistance, more efficient battery. So that's good because it could be less heat, maybe longer cycle life. I think a lot of it will be just the little incremental developments. We always have to remember that what we are using now is the result of all the miracle advancements that were announced 5 to 10 years ago, where everyone said, hey, this battery will change the world. Hey, this battery will last 10 times longer. Well, what we have now is the results of that. Namely, almost none of it gets commercialized. So all the things we read about now that are going to be here in 5 years, most of them won't make it. The commercialization process is brutal.
So with that drop into, Dominic in chat has said, where do you see battery development going in the next 5 years? Will 18650s still be the main battery used? I
think so, because there's so many tens of millions used every day. You just from flashlights to fans to power banks to all at the low end of the market in terms of 1 or 2 amp rated batteries that come in cheap toys coming out of China or something. Millions every single day are being produced, and that's not going to stop being made. Now it may stratify, not more harshly, more definition or more space between the different layers of performance. Now you'll have the 18650s always staying maybe for low end products, but maybe everything else that needs higher performance levels, either more capacity or higher current ratings, will start going over towards 21700s, which I think the market will settle into now. 2700s, they may fade away. I don't see a lot of that being developed for the future. 2650s are already just flash in the pan thing, but I think it'll be the 21700s for the high end of the market, 18650s for the lower. But you've got some of the classics like the VTCs out of Murata now, who bought Sony's battery factories for these cells. So Murata makes Sony VTC batteries, VTC. And those and a lot of the LGs and the Samsungs, Mali cells, in addition to BAK, Lishan, all these other China factories that make decent performance batteries, they're not disappearing, because if a customer makes, has invested millions of dollars, if a vacuum cleaner manufacturer begins with a D, made, whoever that could be, makes electric vacuum cleaners, they have a significant investment in tooling for 18650s.
Yeah.
And they're not going to all of a sudden switch to 21700s until there's a fundamental difference. Or the marketing team goes, hey, we can tell people we use 21700s.
Yeah.
Power tool makers are starting to do that. There's no real benefit to 21700s. In fact, they're harder to pack together in terms of efficiently using space than 18650s for some configurations. But they use it, and now they can say, hey, we're using 21700s, and people go, ooh, big batteries. On that. So I think we'll see 18650s for a very long time.
Okay.
Just going to give you I'm just going to give you a fandom moment where Dave Wright just says, Mooch is the custodian for battery safety in our industry, and we owe him a debt for the work he does on our behalf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Just a quick heads up from Dave. Aww.
I was going to ask another question.
Go.
I didn't see come up on the group.
All checks need to read battery mooch, not just mooch.
Yeah. Spell it out.
Yeah,
Just don't be mooch.
Get on the Patreon. He's doing a great job. I got sent a charger about 4 months ago, and it was one of these even more intelligent chargers, where it changes its amp draw based on what it's getting fed back from the battery. But at its peak, it was charging an 18650 at 3 amps. And I always thought that was way over the sort of ideal limit.
You're already dead. You just don't know it. You died in an explosion months ago.
I mean, obviously they've brought out a charge doing it, so they obviously are not concerned. But 3 amps, surely that's going to limit the life of that battery? No, or is 3 amps okay to charge an 18650 at 3 amps?
Well, it depends on the battery. Unfortunately, our community, humanity, wants yes, no, safe, not safe, good, bad. That's it. That's all they want to deal with.
I don't want the detail in between.
Yeah, I don't want to learn something. I just want to not explode. So it's one simple answer. But there's almost nothing with batteries that's that simple that you can distill down to that. So something like a Molicel P26A is rated at 6 amps for charging.
Right. Okay.
Cycle life
within a
6
particular
amps.
Temperature range as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but the charger does actually monitor the temperature as well. So and drops down when it's unhappy. So. 45 Celsius or so, and then you've got to cut it in half. But then you get the ultra high capacity batteries. They're not great with heat, and they don't have high charging rates. For some of them, the standard charging rate is 600 milliamps. The fast rate's like 1.5 amps. And you're going to really zap this overall, what we call cycle life, the number of cycles you can take a battery through. 3 amps is going to hurt it. Now, what's great is we've got a really easy way to find out if it's too fast. Temperature. If it's more than what most people would call a bit warm, that's typically in the 40 to 45 Celsius range, I think, for most people. Right.
You grab the battery and you're like, okay, it's a little warm. You don't want it to go any further than that. If you grab, you're like, oh, that's pretty warm. Now you're starting to accelerate the aging of the battery a bit. It's not going to explode on you unless there's an internal defect or it short circuits until it's way too hot to touch. I'm talking over 100 C. So if you can heat your tea with it, boil the tea water with it, it's too hot. Typically, I'd say most 15 amp batteries and up, you can charge easily at 1 amp without problems. Much below that, 10 amp batteries and stuff, 0.5 amp to 1 amp, let temperature be your guide. What makes it complicated is a lot of chargers add tremendous amounts of heat to the batteries because they're really inefficient chargers with crappy power supplies.
Yeah.
And even at 0.5 amp, you've got warm batteries, and at 1 amp, they're sitting there, at 50 Celsius or something like that. So you try to be all conscious about your batteries and how you're charging them, but then the charger short circuits your efforts, not literally, but figuratively by being so freaking hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Little battery pun there.
I do have on my ECF page a battery charge rates table where I have 3 charging rates for the big manufacturers' batteries. The maximum rate from the data sheet, the quote standard rate from the data sheet, which is what you charge at to get the cycle life the manufacturer rates the batteries at, and then I take like half to 75% of it, and I call that my long life rate.
Right.
You know, if you don't care, it takes all night to charge, try this.
Okay, cool. All right, it's cool. So, yeah, with the good stuff, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. But it's as always, it's complicated.
Yeah, don't be afraid to point a fan at the charger. I've got, you know, the little square fans you can buy, you know, cheaply.
Computer fans.
I've got like the Opus charger, just a 90 millimeter fan with the Opus is like 90 millimeters wide. I just put a duct tape hinge on it, and I just flip the fan up off of it, put my batteries in, and the fan flips back down, and I run it off USB. If you have a charger with USB output, you can get a USB fan, and with some clever duct taping, run the fan off the charger output, the USB port there, and cool off your batteries. It makes a fundamental difference in how cool your batteries are. Even I take a 12-volt fan, I run it 5 volts. It's you can barely feel the air moving, but that's all you need. You just need to get the hot air from the charger away.
Heat away from it, correct?
I really want to see some people. I want to know if somebody does that. I do want to see somebody. If we get an Omi make that, that'd be pretty cool.
And don't worry about all the links we'll talk about in the show on the Facebook group. Tomorrow morning, we'll put all Mooch's links, his ECF beer, his Patreon, everything, and his YouTube, which is brilliant.
And everything else. A strange question from David Childs. I'm going to go with.
Oh.
Does battery wrap thickness have any effect on a battery's performance, either negatively or positively? Open brackets. See what I did there. Close brackets.
They're clever, actually. I didn't get it until after you finish your sentence, and I'm like, oh.
Thank God for the brackets.
Yeah. No, it shouldn't, unless it interferes with the proper fit inside the device or inside the charger. Yeah, it's so thick on top. It's so thick on top and the bottom that maybe it backs it away enough from the contact so the contact barely touches. So you've got high resistance connection. So the charger thinks it's a crappy battery, so it lowers the rate down to 1/4 amp or something like that. That's not really performance of the battery, but if it's inside a device, maybe you don't get as good a connection or something. But otherwise, in terms of the wrap itself, it's not constricting the battery. It's not interfering with the current flowing out of the 2 ends or anything like that. It can, if you double wrap, like some people do, that does raise. It does raise the temperature up. I did some tests. In my testing, it was like 2 degrees Celsius. It doesn't make a difference.
Oh, right. Okay. I was going to. There are some manufacturers, some sellers in the UK double wrap, and I know because I've taken them off before. So I have seen. It's a good question. That's a good question. We'll go for another good question. I'm skipping ones that if you're on the thread and you're thinking, oh, my question's coming up. I've noticed that we've already
jumping
answered
around.
It.
Yeah.
Well, and if I've noticed we've already answered it, that's why it's kind of moving around. Because sometimes it's the same question, just worded in a different way. I hope you understand why, and you can go back and think, they already answered that. So I haven't answered the Molly question because Mooch did it when he was talking about something else, so it doesn't make any difference. Mark Holland says, what is the best way to charge paired batteries? We've done this question before in the past. We're going to go back to it. What is the best way to charge paired batteries, if they become unbalanced? Charge both and then discharge both and then charge, or just charge them together?
All you have to do is charge them together and you don't have to charge them in the same slot. Just put them in the same charger. Or 2 different chargers, as long as they both work well. Because as soon as both are charged to 4.20 volts, they're rebalanced. You don't need to discharge them, do anything. You just need to charge them back up again.
Have you done much testing with the mods that claim to balance charge on board?
I started doing that, but then it just takes so long. And with internal batteries, that's real important. But if the mod doesn't balance well, that doesn't matter, because as soon as you take the batteries out and put them in your charger, they're rebalanced. It's the only time it's a problem is if you have a series connected external battery mod that you never take your batteries out of, namely USB charge, and they're sitting there in series, so balancing is necessary. In parallel, they balance each other because they're connected to each other electrically. So they both will always be the same voltage. So in series, it doesn't balance well. You never take them out and charge them to effectively rebalance them. and you're using USB, that's the only scenario where you have to start worrying about things.
Yeah.
The impossibility. So sorry, let me just try and get this right. So most of the people who are in chat, we're not daft. Most of the people who are in chat or whatever, or on the page, are what we would define as hobbyists, vapors, and so they'd have heard that information before when we've spoken about series in parallel and stuff like that. But the people who tend to charge the batteries in a series mod don't know they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Because they just buy. They
You
go
won't get
into
that
a
from the
local vape
manufacturer.
shop and they buy their liquid and they
Yeah.
get it and they see the plug. They don't check what it's for. Plug it in. I've known lots of people. So we know in the industry this is definitely a previous problem where the balance board's been shit in a mod, and the manufacturers actually come out and said don't use the charger.
Yeah, a year later they come out and go, "Whoa!"
Put the update or
Don't
put
do
the
that.
update through, and it'll turn the charging function off. Something like that. That's information. You might as well just write that on your local toilet wall, because the people who own that mod will never
that's
see
the
that.
problem.
Yeah.
They will
So
never know.
If you could just get them to occasionally switch the batteries around, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's information that doesn't matter. And I know from my experience and lots of other people's, the times that torn battery wraps comes up and is a problem is always people who are not what would be defined as hobbyist vapors. Somebody will come in and they'll say, "Oh, my battery's a bit dead." They want to try something, and you go, "Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry, I've got loads of batteries. Just put that in," and they pop theirs out, and you go, "Whoa,
Yeah.
what's that from?"
Watching it spark as they pull it in and out of the mod.
Yeah. There's a bit of insulation. I've seen lots of insulation tape round on things like that. Luckily, we always stock battery wraps in our shop, and lots of places do now as well, and say, "Nah, don't do that. You need to change this. You need to, how old's that battery?" But it's not when these manufacturers say, "Oh, we've told everybody." You haven't. You've told less than one.
But this is one of the biggest problems is many of them do tell you. Problem is, it's in a page and a half of dense, tiny text with a million warnings. And who reads that when they buy a battery?
Nobody.
If it's on the battery, when was the last time you read what was on a battery? So it's or the warning cards that are shipped with batteries. It's done in the States a lot. And it's just not something people are going to want to do. They've had AA batteries in a drawer filled with metal utensils in the kitchen for years, and those batteries never exploded. So I'll just throw this battery in my pocket with a bunch of coins, and it's okay. And they just don't understand the power density, how much power is inside these batteries.
Yeah, but it's not a new issue. It's one of those things whenever there's if you read about a tumble dryer or a washing machine that set fire to somebody's house, lots of times you find the product was actually recalled years before, and it was released by the company. If you have a serial number between 1844997722496 and 9989, then you needed to send it back. They didn't check that.
So go down to your basement, pull it away from the wall, pull everything away, pull it away from the wall, and look at that dirty plate in the back, but half the numbers are rubbed off now.
It's great because every insurance company in the world makes sure they've got that number.
Right.
Yeah.
And they go, no, it's recalled. You're not getting anything at all.
I saw a brilliant post, I think it was on your like page, a couple of months ago about regulated mods. Just how you were slightly concerned
safety?
that everyone assumed it's a regulated mod, so it's perfectly safe all the time, no matter what. And it was a brilliant breakdown of you sort of dispelling that. You've still got things to worry about. You've still got things to be careful of.
You can't. They're not unsafe, but we just can't sit there and go, "Oh, they're safe. You can do whatever you want."
Yeah. The mod knows if there's a problem, it'll tell me. And you were sort of saying, it can't detect a rip in your battery, or it was a really great post.
Yeah, there are great ways we can bypass every piece of protection. If it was a $1,500 mod, with DARPA level, MOD for you guys, level of protection, well, that's great, but a torn wrap at the top bypasses all the protection because it short circuits directly on the contact when you insert it into the mod. So your regulated mod for protection does nothing for that. There still has to be some, not fear, but respect for the power of these batteries, and just a little bit of background attention spent to a couple of things, a couple of failure scenarios.
Yeah.
That's a good question on that. Actually, going to spin off that to Richard Rushton in chat. Hey, Mooch, how often would you say you should replace batteries? I replace mine every 3 months. That is very on the ball.
That's
every 3
hardcore,
months.
isn't it?
Been used daily with and he's saying it's been using it daily with a switch FET mod, and so you replace them every 3 months.
That's still only 90 cycles, though, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of it depends how hard you're using them. If they're not getting hot, if you're not fast charging them all the time, but you don't have to replace them on a set schedule. It can be convenient. It's like I replace all the batteries in my smoke detectors every Christmas because for some reason it just pops up into my mind. Oh, the holidays. Yeah. That's what I do at the holidays.
Yeah.
But they might go for 3 years, but it's just easier to say, just do that.
Yeah.
For our devices, there's no calendar type of schedule you need. I really just say, look, replace it when the loss of performance pisses you off too much, whatever that level may be.
Yeah.
And because they'll start losing capacity. You'll lose vaping time off of them, or you'll get earlier weak low battery alerts. In regulated mod or unregulated mod just won't hit as hard. It could be 50 cycles, or it could be literally 2,000 cycles. A lot of it depends on, do you take it down to 3.5 volts and recharge, or are you going to much lower voltage doing that? Does your charger overcharge a little bit to like 4.25? That ages the battery faster, or is it charged to 4.15? Now your batteries surprisingly last a lot longer. Most people should get about a year or so. Certainly if they're acting weird, if they're getting hotter when you can't think of any reason why they should be, if they're just getting physically beaten up, lots of little dents, a dented top contact or something like that, for heaven's sake, replace them. Yeah. But otherwise, there's just no need until the performance loss pisses you off to replace them.
I kind of do it like fruit in a supermarket. So someone might
just feel them. If they're soft, get rid of them.
Yeah, someone might send me a pack of 4 with whatever, and I'll sort of look through my old ones, and the oldest looking one, or if I get 4, then the oldest looking 4, I'll just sort of, ooh, that looks a bit battered, and that one goes.
That's good. You check them or smell them. That's the other way.
Because they're never they're never going to do that many cycles. So
the ripest batteries, they smell the best.
They get all torn, a little dents, a little.
You can smell when they go bad too. That like a banana when it gets that. For me, it's almost not gasoline, but I'm trying to think of
alcohol.
I odor to it once they're going a little too ripe. Well, same with a battery. It starts to get a little ripe. You get that little bit. Oh. No, folks, no. Not true.
Just because there's quite a few questions about chargers, and I think we can kind of put them into. This is kind of put. Effectively, the question is, what's the best charger?
I was waiting for the B word to come up.
I know.
What's
I was really trying. I've been trying to filter out the word.
This was in our first show best. 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, I try to avoid the best thing because I'm not a fan of the best. It does my head.
What I always tell people is, I ask them now, what's the best car?
Yeah.
And I don't say anything. And when they tell me, oh, well, I think it's the Bugatti Veyron. And I go, the first thing I say is, but I 6 kids to take to school. They're like, well, you didn't tell me that. I'm like,
you just thought the best car.
So it can't be a single best. There's best for different categories. There's best for different uses. And they're like, oh, no. I say, okay, go again. What's the best car? And they tell me, I go, but I'm an F1 racing driver. That car is shit for that. And they're like, and I'm like, look, I'm just.
And you go, why the fuck are you asking me? You need to be in a home. This is ridiculous. You have engineers.
So it's bottom line, there's no best in any event. It depends what you're looking for. Chargers, I don't think I'm ever going to give a charger recommendation, much less the best.
They can't afford you. The official
so
mooch
much of
stamp
it-
on the box.
Yeah, there we go. So much of it is dependent on features that you may like or dislike. Like for me, I must have really easily adjusted current levels because I have a wide variety of batteries that I'm trying to recharge or test different things out and stuff like that. So I want a 1/4 amp to maybe 4 amps without going into menus. I just want to be able to click a button and cycle through those. Somebody else may go, I've got 4 Samsung 25Rs. I'm always going to charge at 1 amp. What the hell do I want a menu for? Why do I want any adjustability? I just want to put these things in charge.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be utterly and completely useless to them. I don't give recommendations.
Are there some rules though? Are they like go with a brand you've heard of? Is that a fair rule?
Well, yeah.
Is there a bad charger that you would say to stay away from?
I've been testing the ones that are most used by vapors, and vapors are pretty good at policing that stuff, out. They're all useless for internal resistance. Most of them are pretty bad at capacity measurement. Most of them, all of them, were fairly good to fantastic for charging voltage accuracy, which is the bottom line, the really important thing.
Right.
Most of them, if you can adjust the current levels, were pretty spot on for the current. If you set it to 1/2 amp, it's 0.45 to 0.55. That's fine.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find a bad one, unless you're going for like shopping by price, which you don't do for chargers or batteries.
No.
You can stay. Overall, the night cores run hot as Hades. They're the worst abusers in terms of heating up your cells. But you may go, I don't care. I'll set it to 1/2 amp. I want to charge 8 of those in that vertical night core charger, or is that an X-Star? I think it's night core.
It was Nightcore that had trouble with clones as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, Nightcore had a lot of trouble years ago with someone just literally cloning copies. That's when they brought out all the barcodes and
Unfortunately, I do those. X-Star has got some nice new chargers on there, and I like them. Technologically, their internal resistance measuring circuit, I evaluated that, took a look at it, and wonderfully simple, elegant circuit that worked really, really well. But I think in terms like an eFest or something, a couple of their newer chargers, the displays were uselessly dim. And they said, oh, well, it'll be better in batch 2. And I'm like, well, you're not recalling batch 1? No, we've already sold out. All the dealers have them. And I'm like, okay. So I just put out a do not buy recommendation. Don't buy these eFests.
I'm going to take out the B word.
Did I answer the question then? There is no best charger. Shop for the features you like. Stick with the big name brands. And you know what? Ask your favorite vapor group, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And say, look, this is I want something. List your features, and you'll get some great feedback from other vapors for that particular set of features.
Just because we've been, I'm going to take the B word out of this. Sorry, Jason, who's asked this question. This is a difficult question, so I'm going to give it. You've got like 4 options, really. Because we've been talking about 18650s, let's just have a quick one about 18350s and 18400s or 18490s.
Oh, like best of. I just did there was.
But don't do the best. We're going to talk about 2 different things. We're going to talk about capacity, and we're going to talk about
because 18350s have come back into popularity.
They have come back due to
tiny little
I recently retested them. There's only like 1/3 the number on the market now, so it's actually pretty easy. To do the retesting.
They suddenly came out with 10 amp ones, didn't they?
Yes.
Like 10 amp 18350s.
9 and 10 amp.
Yeah, but how did these suddenly manage to improve that much?
They haven't. They just use different numbers.
Right.
But actually, I said I think I gave them a 9 amp rating.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I think I tested 4 18350s. 3 of them were the same cell. So that's easy. Because there's just not a lot of companies making 18350s. It's a tiny market. So you only get 1 or 2 factories. There are only 1 or 2 cells available, and everyone just rewraps them or wraps them. Period.
Yeah.
And they slap their numbers on them. Keep Power, Vapcell. I don't remember the third brand. We're all the same. What I gave 9 amp, 1100 mAh, milliamp per hour cell, and that's your best choice right now.
Yeah.
And 18500.
Use the B word for that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid it. 18500s.
Oh,
I have absolutely no idea. I think I have 2 of them in my mailbox.
I can't think. I don't think I've touched one since an AW, which is like
I haven't
ridiculous.
tested one in 3 years. I thought it was time. I got a couple requests.
Oddly, I was in a vape shop in New York. I can't remember where it was. Whereabouts it was in New York. I went to 2. One in Soho, which was quite good, and one not too far from Times Square, but I can't remember where it was. And they've got fake AW batteries.
Okay.
They got 18650, 18500s, 18350s. They're all fake. And that's how long ago I've been. Well, that was 5 years ago. So I was married.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, the 500s.
Well, that's fine. If they're dead,
there's 2500s
I'm going to test
now,
2, and I'll know within a month. They'll be for 18500s. Maybe a couple of weeks. I'll have 2 18500s.
There you go.
I don't remember which.
Okay. A slight segue. But obviously, being a reviewer, this is kind of a thing that happens. Do you cringe a little bit or worry a little bit about reviewers promoting batteries, companies, or endorsing or mentioning batteries? The thing that sticks out to me is Galisi, or however you want to say it. They really pushed it out there, and they were sending all reviewers these batteries, getting the reviewers to always use them on videos, always mention them in videos, and I don't know. They turned out to be pretty good batteries, I think. I'm right.
They're not bad. They're not bad. They're middle to a little above middle.
Does that kind of set off your spidey senses a little bit when you see?
Not too much, as long as that it's not junk. That they're trying to pawn off on everybody.
Yeah.
That they're actually
Because there's a big difference between being a vape reviewer and knowing anything about a new battery that's just come out.
It's for the batteries. I think the ratings were all pretty close for the Galisis I tested, so I really didn't mind them being promoted like that.
Yeah.
For the chargers, I didn't know anything about the Galisi chargers, so on there, I was just kind of laughing at how they just flooded everywhere instead of a long-term strategy. For growth, they just said, let's flood and see what happens, and then they disappeared a month later, and I'm like, oh, that's not going to work.
Yeah, cool. John?
So the next question can drift because it's from Gary Dibley. I can't know the answer to this, but it's quite funny. Yeah, I can use whatever words I want. How come all the fuckers who are vaping weed have no reports of blowing their balls off?
Because they can't remember it.
Are we looking for those reports? I think
I answered this question on the thread, and I said the blowing up reports have really gone down since people started dying of lipoid pneumonia, because that's more in the press at the moment. So if somebody rings up and says my son just blew his ear off, they go, yeah, but can he breathe? Yeah, he can breathe fine. We don't care about ears, but we did ears 2 years ago. We're doing lungs.
Are they charging internally? That could be it. They're not ripping the wraps. They're using USB ports if that's available.
I think they're mainly using joules.
Probably not using mechs.
Give it time. Give it time.
Yeah, it seems to be. They're mostly what I've seen are mostly pre-filled cartridges, or CE5s have got a massive following in the marijuana world.
I think a lot of it just be the devices themselves. They may be, internal battery mods. Devices, so you're not going to have the degradation of the wraps and stuff like that from being moved around. I don't know, maybe they're just more aware somehow as a community of what's going on with the batteries and how you have to take care of them. Or maybe if this person is asking the question is involved in that community, they might know, but we may just not be involved
we
involved
didn't
enough.
we didn't have a lot of incidents in the first couple of years of our community, did we? So
No.
it
Yeah,
came
and
after a wave, so maybe they just haven't got there yet.
it depends on the number of people too. You can say, look, if there's, what is it, what the per capita failure rate kind of thing, or exploding people rate. If you've got 10 million vapors and there's 100 accidents, we may see 100 news reports and go, oh my God, that's horrible. But that's a low per capita failure rate or explosion rate, where, if you've only got 1 million people who are using these devices for weed, anything less than 10 is going to be a lower rate. And you may just not hear about 10 failures where something catches fire or something like that. And these devices, there may be something to this. These devices are typically, I think, a lot more expensive than the inexpensive vaping devices. Or at least I've seen some very expensive devices for weed. So they may
also run
designed-
quite a lower amp rating, don't they? Or they use
the
lower
charging
amps.
slower, the lower capacity. They may be, as in general, maybe designed better. So internal charging, even if you're taking batteries in and out, if you're charging internally by USB, maybe that isn't an issue as much. To answer his question, I don't know.
Since you brought it up again, the internal battery mod thing, I got in a bit of a debate on my channel for mentioning that an internal battery mod is essentially a temporary mod. 500 cycles, 600 cycles down the line, it might be a good idea to dispose of that mod. It's a built-in battery. There's nothing really you can do about it unless you start taking it apart. People say, no, I've had a built-in battery mod for 4 years. I'm still using the MPV2, or there was sort of comments like that.
I stick 50.
Yeah, but where do you sort of stand on the whole built-in battery mod thing? Am I on the right lines? If you get to
They are disposable.
age, yeah,
They're disposable devices. They're just expensive disposable devices. When the battery fails, you have to throw it away. You can't replace that battery, not easily.
But should you be preempting that as a vapor? Like, I've had this 3 years, I've used it every day, maybe it's time I just park it.
It goes back to the earlier question about calendar age, calendar life of the battery, or calendar schedule. It's really when the performance starts to piss you off or something weird starts happening. You really can't monitor the temperature too well, unless it's really hot. So it's like, oh man, it's only running like half the time before I have to recharge it.
So it's more likely I'll notice that performance is getting frustrating before okay, cool.
Unless if you're dropping it a lot, the battery's getting a beat inside. It's banging up, just a little bit, banging here, banging here, banging here. You might go, it's getting pretty beat up. If you shake it, I can hear it, because the battery's getting crushed down a little bit. You can hear it shaking around. You might decide, I'm going to replace that.
I had a question for you, and it's more just having our community battery deity, the Mooch, on the show. I think I'd be doing us all a disservice if I didn't ask for your comment on the Nobel Prize to M. Stanley Whittingham, John B. Goodenough, and Akira Yoshino, and what your thoughts were.
They're three of hundreds of people working on some great advancements. I think they've got, the work that was done. What was it, back in the 90s?
91.
91, 92. It essentially invented, in a way, it's kind of like, Edison inventing a telephone.
He evolved something to it, but
not really. But
that's a really un-American thing to say, because you get in trouble all the time. If you talk about light bulbs, it's a really good way to get somebody to threaten to kill you. If you go, nah, not really. And as soon as you say something like, they'll say, what? And you go, no. And then they'll say, what did he invent?
Was a genius at marketing and commercialization of existing technologies. He would take them the next step to make them commercially viable, where someone might have even a technically superior device, unless you can commercialize it, unless you can find a way to make it affordable or something like that, or put it in a form or format that people will buy, then it just sits there as an invention, not as a product.
No,
so
it's a kind of one of those really fun arguments. If somebody says, he invented it, and you go, which bit did he invent? And they'll say, oh, the tungsten filament. You go, no. And then they'll say, the fact that you use an inert gas in a bulb, no. Just not, no.
But someone had to take it all together and turn it into a product.
Oh, it's fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Invented.
Marketing genius.
So for those three to essentially create lithium-ion batteries, but then you go to, who was it, Sony or Molicel, were the ones who said, well, that's a great invention, but we're going to make the first product based on that, and we're going to sell the first lithium-ion batteries. Does that, well, gets less credit because they didn't develop it. They're the first ones to really turn it into something. So I didn't have one thought one way or the other. For me, it's just another in a huge chain of things that happen for any product development and multiple products and of all types.
Were you surprised to see someone within that industry be recognized at that caliber, though? I think
no, I really didn't have much of any kind of thought. I just kind of went, oh, okay. Typically, you think, okay, physics or medicine or something like that. That's where, the Higgs boson was discovered or polio vaccine or something. I think those are two examples of Nobel Prize winners. That's the kind of thing you normally see, but not for batteries. So, in hindsight, with you asking, no, not even hindsight, but you asking, like, well, yeah, but it's like, it's not like I went, with pride that something battery related got done to that. Maybe because it's just been so long, and it's so, batteries are so ubiquitous now. They're just everywhere. It's not anything special. They're just always here in all the devices we use. And
something you said there about they took everyone else's pieces of work, put them together in a format that was then capable of being commercialized. Would you care to make a prediction on, their new work in solid state batteries, and whether which one of the three do you think will be more likely commercialized in the next 5 to 10 years? Glass, ceramic electrolyte, or graphene?
Well, graphene's pretty well here. Graphene, I think, graphene's a financial decision, not a technical one. Anytime a battery company wants, they can take graphene powder and put it into the battery. It doesn't offer big enough performance difference for a lot of markets to be worth the higher cost of graphene.
What Grabbit are doing, though, is they're actually creating a solid state mesh of graphene rather than a powder base.
Okay.
And then I believe suspending it in a gel, similar to the ceramic electrolyte.
Okay, now
solid state batteries.
I think those, only because it's pretty hard to get ions to move through solids. So you're stuck with a very low current rated battery. So they'll concentrate on capacity. So it'll be something like,
it wouldn't be for our industry.
Yeah, it'll be a 7,000 mAh 18650 with a 2 amp rating kind of thing. If it reaches commercial, a certain level, it's actually really hard to go from what they develop in the lab, namely tiny coin cells, often because you can use a manual crimper to make coin cells. So it's great for development. They just testing. They stack everything up in one half of it. You put the cap on, you crimp it, and now you can test these little coin cells. Otherwise, the next one is easy to do. The flat pouch, like lipos, on there. So a lot of these will be developed for that. Yeah, in that format. And those will probably be the first ones that come to market in that format. So internal battery mods might see that, perhaps low power, ultra high capacity. But you have to get China then to go, oh, that's a good idea.
I have to get them to produce it.
Yeah. So it can be a great battery, but China has to buy it. And if it costs a lot,
we're gonna jump off batteries but we're going to take Mooch as the American man. That's what we're going to take Mooch as right now. I don't know if Richard's going to play the theme tune for news.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a good
Just
idea.
briefly, we're going to jump into news, but don't worry. The first bit's American-centric because we just need to know what you reckon.
Roll news intro.
Yeah, we can't hear.
Okay. That's that. That's that. So, news. So, are we doing Trump first then, John?
We're going to go Trump first. We're going to go. Sadly, I have to use CNN for this. I apologise, Nick, for using CNN, but I will do. It's just a really weird thing because there's a stuck in stasis issue at the moment you have in America. And so we're going to just look down the barrel of that just for a second. The headline is 3 months later, the Trump administration's vaping policy is yet to be seen. 3 months after President Trump said that the US Food and Drugs Administration would put out some very strong recommendations regarding the sale of flavored e-cigarettes, that policy is still yet to be seen. When asked last week whether Trump is close to a final decision on what the policy could look like, White House Counselor Kellyanne Conway said that such information will come from the FDA and the US Department of Health and Human Services. The guidance comes from the FDA and the HSS, and so obviously the president wanted to hear from all sides of the issue, but also watching what's going on in the marketplace. That has nothing to do with us, she said.
Mm.
You're in there. There's a really weird thing. Manufacturers.
So they've dropped that political hot potato then.
Well, I don't know
that's what they said.
doing.
We don't want. We made our statement so we can look good. We don't want to deal with it. Let the FDA try this. And I don't know why HHS is involved, but it's they'll just say, hey, we somebody made a phone call, somebody sent a tweet to the FDA or something, whatever, sent an email to the FDA and said, hey, could you get on this again because we don't want to. But the groups who are bombing the White House with phone calls this week because it's the 3-month anniversary. So they're like, hey, what the hell?
So really, it's such a weird situation, especially to watch from here. Politics, they're totally different on either side of the Atlantic. That
well, it's a fundamental differences to where does healthcare come from? Is it privatized or is it coming through the government? If it's coming, if it's privatized, whoa, we've got some profit drivers that encourage essentially illness. And if it's coming from the government's like, oh hell no, we're not paying for this. Vape. Put them damn cigarettes down.
That's a really but that's a double-edged sword as well, because that's something that comes up quite a lot in the UK. I'm going to partly agree and partly disagree. When I say Americans, so I don't mean to generalize, often come up with, if you have a nationalized health service, then they want you not to be sick. But there is a problem with that hypothesis, which is that the taxes on cigarettes pay for that very health service. If you smoked for your entire life, you could never dream of spending all the money that you've spent on taxes. You wouldn't be able to do it, and unless you lived for 50 years with an incredible disease, you'd be very hard pressed to spend.
There's also longevity issues as well for a national health service. Everyone dies, so you're not preventing death permanently. So at some point, you're going to need a hospital bed.
That's true. That's a good point.
But you're ideal.
But there is it does help.
It's not as blatantly
it's not simple. But it's not
as here in the States where it's so obviously big pharma influenced and with very short-term profit gain focus. Kind of thing that we have here in the States.
Yeah, it's a much more direct and immediate calculation with America, isn't it?
You have a huge opiate problem in the US, which is nobody's looking at really, with in terms of medication, which is like which it couldn't. whenever you look at it, when you take it apart, that's something that just could never happen.
Well,
here.
no. Trump said, it's a crisis, so it's been dealt with.
We can't walk to the shop and just buy them. But, if we had the money, that's not how it works.
I know, I've tried.
They go, fuck no, you're not having that shit. Yeah, so really, but it is interesting, especially, and I'm going to go
What's the next one, John?
It's Clive Bates.
Is this the science, drug science?
Yes.
Publication.
Oh,
that's it. The drug science publication by Clive Bates. Clive Bates, if you haven't heard, I don't know. Clive Bates kind of sticks his head over the parapet every so often as an advocate of vaping in the UK with a medical degree. That he's been very good for the vaping industry, and definitely more prominent 3 years ago than he is now. But here we go. Just some quick fire answers from Clive Bates, which I quite liked. In drug science, drugscience.org.uk. Are e-cigarettes less harmful than cigarettes? These are always questions asked to Clive Bates. Yes, beyond any reasonable doubt, e-cigarettes are much less harmful. Almost all the harm done by cigarettes arises from the smoke, and e-cigarettes do not produce smoke. Though we cannot have a 50-year study, the product has only been in use for around 10 years. That does not mean we don't have any data. We have extensive data on the toxins in vapor and measurements of exposure to biomarkers in blood, urine, and saliva of users. All suggest very much lower risk than smoking. How much less harmful are e-cigarettes than cigarettes? There again, we're going to quote the thing. At least, this is the word that gets missed out continually, weirdly again, by our friends across the Atlantic. Always miss out the two words, at least 95%. That isn't 95%, that is at least 95% safer.
That's our relentless, obsessive drive to simplification.
Yeah.
If we can,
I don't mind it. I don't mind it either. If you've got to be succinct when you're making a point.
But I don't like it.
At least doesn't fit on a banner.
I don't like 95% safer. Like, no one's ever said that.
Yeah, it bothers me when they just say 95% safer, only because you can't quantify the risk to that kind of specific number. To me, it invalidates the whole number if you're trying to be that specific. To me, it's like saying, well, no, it's 95.462% safer. It just becomes a silly number. Or if you say at least 95%, to me, I'm like, okay, that sounds like something that would be a conclusion, that would be valid. It just seems to have more validity for me than to try to quote this hard number as being, bam, this is it, 95%. To me, that just, it makes it too easily attackable.
I understand. I don't think it's just one of those things where, because it's my job and because of various things in the industry, that we tend to read the actual papers, not the new. We actually read the scientific paper and we read the study. So as soon as you drop the word, I think, no, it didn't fucking say that. It wasn't even a point. It didn't fucking say that. They've rounded it off for dipshits. And so I just think, don't use, when you're making, I totally agree, when you're writing a fucking sign, do what you like. But when you're quoting somebody, use the quote in whole, and you're trying to make a point.
Yeah,
anyway.
You can't paraphrase.
No, not in those circumstances. This is a really good question to Clive Bates. Do the recent cases of severe lung injury and deaths prove e-cigarettes are harmful? No, definitely not. These cases have gained worldwide publicity, but they are completely unrelated to normal nicotine e-liquids and e-cigarettes. The cases occurred in users of illegal cannabis vaping products and were caused by the use of a particular additive used for thickening cannabis oils, vitamin E acetate. It is possible that other additives were also involved. This cannot be used in nicotine e-liquid and would serve no purpose. So I think
that information is boring and never gets to the millions of people who click on it.
It's such a perfect example of
dangerous.
If the reason it isn't in there is because it would be totally pointless in our industry to use vitamin E acetate, because what would it do? It would only put the cost up to the manufacturer, and there would be nothing for the end user. It doesn't do anything at all. all you're doing is for the appearance that your product is purer than it is in terms of THC or cannabis oils, to make it appear thicker, which was a way of telling the quality was how thick or thin it was. It's got absolutely nothing to do with it. It's why we feel perfectly safe saying it's not there. There's no way. There's no point in putting it in there. You are absolutely nuts.
Right. So that's the news. That's this week's news. We don't have long left.
So
we were toying with the idea, and I've put it in chat as well, of asking Mooch some non-battery related questions. Find out more about.
I've got a good question.
More about Mooch.
I've got a weird question before.
More about Mooch.
What food or drink products have you tried from the UK that you liked? That's why. Have you tried any? And do you like them? If not, I'll send you a care package just because.
Yeah, there was a bunch of. There were some beers and stouts that I enjoyed, but I can't remember the names to tell you. The food-wise, I think I'm pretty. No, there was a bunch of treats. There were a bunch of
biscuits and chocolate. We're winning on. We just win. We're better than you. Sorry.
Yeah, it was some interesting candy bars. It was like from companies that we had in the States, but you guys had different versions of the bars.
Yeah.
And then there were some biscuits that plain, like I don't know, we call them like tea cookies or something, just very plain.
Rich tea,
flat ones.
Rich tea, so a round biscuits, kind of flat.
Yeah, just a very basic, nice, pleasant biscuit.
I think I'm going to try and sort. I'll try and sort out a care package.
What about anything like British foods, like fish and chips?
Because you've been here, haven't you, Mitch? You came.
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, you've never been? I thought you'd been a few years ago.
Yeah. So haven't been. So really haven't tried anything. Haven't tried fish and chips, but I'm allergic to seafood, so that will never happen.
Yorkshire pudding.
But no, haven't tried that.
You need to come over for an expo.
I don't know of a good place to go for that here in New York City.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a classic, authentic kind of UK style.
We'll find a New York-based manufacturer at Aegis.
Oh, you need to come over for an expo. Come to a UK expo.
Well, yeah, there we go. Do an expo. I think a couple of the. I guess I think I'd like to try that. Actually, I saw a making of, and I'm like, that doesn't sound that bad, But I want it fried. I want that crunchy, burnt exterior on.
We have this thing that you definitely don't have in New York. It's really, it's hard to explain to you. We call it over here. We call it bacon. You have a thing that you call that. There's not that. It's like a horrible strip of shit that you fry the fuck out of,
and it's see-through. Practically,
it tastes of nothing. That's what you.
I've seen. You've got. I've seen the bacon. It's just like a round slab of.
We have back bacon as well, but we have streaky bacon too. But what we do is we cure it properly so it tastes of something. That's a trick we use over in the UK.
No, we use potassium nitrate or whatever.
Yeah,
sodium
saltpeter
nitrate or something.
Yeah, we use saltpeter over here, but what we do is we actually make it taste of something. It's really weird. What was it?
Favorite movie?
Perfect question.
Oh, it's a mood thing. There's
Give us like
just reel off some movies.
Okay.
Christmas movie.
Godfather.
Good.
Only because it was such a formative movie, because I was 17 years old and it blew us away. Star Wars Episode 4. Casablanca.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the other 50. It's funny. I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, and we did the top 10, and they just rolled off the tongue, and now my brain is frying.
Well, they're all solid choices.
It's such a wide variety of.
Do you homebrew beer?
Do you homebrew beer?
Mooch, do you homebrew beer?
I've considered it for a long time. I did when I was like 15 years old. I did white wine.
Bottle cap.
I did wine as a kid. My parents said, "Yeah, that sounds great. Why don't you make us some wine?" So it did.
I can't imagine that going well.
It actually was edible. It wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I think, but it's something I've been considering. But then I'm like, the cost, the room it takes.
Yeah.
It's nice to just go down to a store.
I saw the clamp in the background there, and I thought it was a bottle top crimper.
Ah, okay. Oh,
That guy, yeah.
yeah, that's the handlebars on a bike.
Oh.
There's the frame of
Yeah,
the
I can
bike
see it now.
going across
I
here.
see
Yeah,
it
I
now.
can see it now.
I see my
I was
mistake now.
gonna, where have you been in the world? Have you been? You've been to Europe?
Yeah. Did some rock climbing in Switzerland, France, Switzerland, Italy, and then the States.
Nice.
That's been my traveling.
So you've been, yeah, that's quite some cuisine you've been around. So I can't be too mean.
Oh, the traveling I want to do is often based around like New Orleans. I'm like, yeah, this stuff to see. How about the food?
Oh
What
yeah,
do
it's always about food and booze. They are the
That's
most
what drives
important
me.
thing. Yeah, absolutely. Chris Morrow said, if your wine is edible, it went badly wrong.
For a 15-year-old, edible was a major accomplishment.
What
Did
is
not
your?
poison the family?
Yeah.
We're gonna go with what's your favorite TV show, Mooch? Do you watch TV?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
He's trying to work out how much damage he can go down.
No, I'm trying to remember
Sex
the
in
TV
the
shows,
City.
all the TV shows I like. It's funny, here, at least in New York, Sex and the City, the first 2 seasons, all the guys watched Sex and the City because we thought we could learn something about women, but we just learned about how screwed up the characters were, really.
Yeah.
And we're like, caricatures.
I've never seen one episode.
Oh, it's brilliant, John.
No.
It's brilliant.
You're not missing nothing.
I don't watch anything. I don't know any of that. Ow.
Favorite TV shows? Holy crap.
America's
I
Next
think
Top Model.
No, that's what I masturbate to. I don't really watch it.
Me too. I'm glad we had that Skype chat now.
Yeah, I think for some of the writing, not all the episodes, Battlestar Galactica, I really liked a lot of the writing. Some brilliantly done episodes there. What the hell? TV. I'm trying to remember TV shows because once you start watching YouTube and other things, that everything gets fuzzy.
It does.
As to what's a TV show or not a TV show. I'm blanking out. It would have to be like you sit in a room and a bunch of people call out their favorites and you're like, oh yeah, that one. And,
That one.
Yeah, that one. But I'm totally blanking out now. I enjoyed a lot of sci-fi, a lot of the comedies and stuff. Not as much.
There must be things you watch with Mrs. Mooch.
Well, the girlfriend and I don't share a lot of TV. She loves a lot of the comedies, stand-up comedy, stuff like that. And
you do the man thing and zone out when you're just absent.
Don't watch TV much together. For movies, we do a lot of that. We'll agree on.
That's good.
A particular kind of movie, like something spectacular, Goodfellas, or that's really, really bad sci-fi's can be a lot of fun too. We like Mystery Science Theater 3000 we have here, where they take the worst sci-fi movie known to mankind. They have voiceovers.
What about hobbies? Do you have time for hobbies?
Not much now, because I turn my hobby into what I do.
Yeah,
always
a problem.
and an offshoot of that, my day job turned into the battery testing I do for the community. Numismatics I was involved with for a long time and still fascinates me because of the history. Coin collecting, for the people who don't know, it could be a hell of an investment. I've made some good money over the years, but the history that's wrapped up in those. I mean, I've got
and it's American history, so we all remember it. 1991.
Yeah, there we go. But I have a silver denarius from 59 AD. This damn thing could have been touched. And the denarius is 1 day's wage for a soldier, roughly, at that time. This is a valuable coin at that period. It'd be like $100 bill or something like that. So this thing isn't touched by just your average person. This is the thing that's touched by Roman senators.
I think we have to get Mooch over here with a metal detector. That's what we should do. Yeah. Just meet him at the airport with a metal detector and just leave him in the field. Just finding stuff.
What is it? 50% I keep. up to 50%. I think if I alert the government to a
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. As long as it's If it's
No,
a
just
treasure
keep it.
trove. Yeah. We could just
Well,
do
That
it.
didn't work out. I saw the article. That did not work out well for two gents.
Yeah, the two guys last month.
Oh,
They
who
were sentenced
who
44
stole a
years.
lot? Yeah.
And sold it off piecemeal to museums or something like that. Yeah, no.
They didn't do well.
But otherwise, like my father was a philatelist, and I was a numismatist.
What?
What's
They're
the
just
first one?
making up words.
I'm going to let you look that shit up. But I think
How scary is the Google result going to be for that? Am I going to get myself on
Yeah.
a watch list?
It's okay if you watch Volume 1, but Volume 2
blood
is
is
where
there.
all the anal is.
I think no, but like I was an avid runner and rock climber, so that can turn into hobbies for the people who do that a lot, because you base your trips around the rock climbing and the friends that you keep and stuff like that.
Most impressive climb? Or your
I
favorite?
think we're going to go for.
Well,
we're
you
going
did
to go make.
You did say Switzerland, didn't you?
Yeah.
Most
I think we're going
impressive.
to make that Mooch's last question. But most impressive
Oh.
thing you've climbed. Like, what is that? What's your accomplishment in climbing?
I think it was just impressive. I think publicly impressive. Yes, it was the winter climbing up at around 3,000 meters in Switzerland. You've got 2 meters of snow everywhere. It's like 5 degrees Celsius outside. The views. You're climbing in the Alps, and there's going to be some views, which is all just to build up a big appetite, for the great food that's waiting for you down in the little town below. But I think the most impressive for me was like a 15-meter climb in New Hampshire. It was only 15 meters high, but the holds, you take 2 coins, glue the coins together, and then glue those to glass. Now tilt the glass back at 45 degrees. Now climb the glass. That's about what the climb was.
Wow.
And for anybody who's a climber, it was a 512A. And it's the kind of climbs. It's kind of climb where you hit a 1/4 inch ledge, and you're like, oh, thank God. I've got something that's as big as
take a
1/4
break
inch.
now.
Yeah, literally. That's where you took a break. You shake out the arms and stuff like that. Because I didn't do mountaineering. It wasn't me against the weather. It's rock climbing, and that's the kind of thing where we did some like 5 days of wilderness camping in West Virginia, but still at the end you're coming back to the tent at the end of each day, kind of thing. You're not trying to camp out in the altitude and battle that and battle the weather. You want to be dry. You want to have good food and stuff like that.
Totally understand. I think that is the wrap.
That's it. I think that's it. We've run out of time, as always.
As always. Yes.
As always with Mooch, there's a million questions, but another time. As said before, we'll put all Mooch's links in the group tomorrow morning. Definitely go and follow him on Facebook, his like page, the YouTube as well. The YouTube, the videos, I think it works brilliant. That format of doing it on video.
I don't do a lot of them, but not a lot of things fit in video.
But they're so unique, though. No one else is doing anything like it, which is.
I did like it more when you were on cam. Now you do an over-the-shoulder number. But I do like it.
I don't have to shave for that.
That's true.
Well,
so
we'll
put all
for the classroom. Having the whiteboard in the classroom thing. And other things are like, oh, I'm not doing up and close and back and up and close and back. That's too much damn work, too much editing.
Yeah.
So I just stay up and close.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, Mooch.
Thanks for the invite, guys. It was awesome to be back on. And to everyone watching, thank you for the questions and those on Facebook and stuff like that. It was always fun to answer too.
Yeah, really good questions, guys, in chat. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you next week. Smash that like button, buy a cup, etc.
Bye, y'all.
See you later.
We didn't mention the thing because we're not allowed to. Bye.
Yeah, and don't forget the raffle is ongoing. Last chance.
Oh yes,
get in the group.
yes. I'm going to do it quickly. Just don't forget. Okay, don't forget we're doing. So go over to the group. Go over to either the Ideal. I did it. Fucked it. The new Ohm Show group. or
Can't do
over
fast. We've learned this.
to Vape Don't Smoke Facebook group and get your tickets. We're trying to buy as many Christmas presents as possible for children who wouldn't get Christmas presents otherwise from Second Chance Scotland. They're for sale right now. You've already made over £1,000. That is absolutely incredible.
Wow.
Keep going.
Yeah.
We're going to finish it
Excellent.
tomorrow night at about 8 o'clock. I'll call the raffle tomorrow night at fuck knows when, as soon as we've accumulated all the numbers. Thank you so much. Please buy more tickets. You're awesome. And thanks for the prizes. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.